Good day, sports fans. From Las Vegas, it is gamblersWORLD.net, Week 5, the NFL preview. And we've got some special guests for you today, analysis of NFL selection and insights that you may have thought of from three of the best professionals in the game. Hi, I'm Chip Chirimbes. I'm your host, Las Vegas Hilton champion. And we have special guests, of course, Mr. Jim Feist, Mr. Vegas Hall of Fame handicapper and Las Vegas handicapping champion. Jim, welcome aboard. I understand you're doing really well and have a great streak going right now.
I had a nice streak. I lost last night. I had the Mets up 3-0, blew the lead. That was my first loser for a while, so I can't complain. Definitely cannot complain.
All right, I'm sure we're going to have something this weekend out of you as well that was going to be worthy of a primary pick. And Paulie, you know, Jim, you and I have been in a high profile for a while in the industry, but Paulie's sort of been under the radar all the while. And, you know, he likes to stay incognito. And as a matter of fact, the bookies in Las Vegas right now wish he'd go missing permanently. Just absolutely swept the board on Sunday. Paul, congratulations and welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chip, man. Yeah, it was a good day on Sunday. I believe we went 5-0, and I hit these games hard. Saturday, I think it was a 3-1. I did give out New Mexico as the free play, and we got a cover. It wasn't an easy one, but we got it. And we also hit our free play in the NFL, so that's the last two. Yep. And, yeah, we're ready for more this weekend.
All right, but you know, I had a great NFL week myself, 6-1, and yet you top it by going 5-0. Jim, we're a lot of competition out there right now, particularly at gamblersWORLD.net. 13 of the finest handicappers in the country give you their best each and every day. I got a question for you guys, and this goes to both of you. How much do you consider coaching in making a selection? Or do you think it's already indoctrinated into the line and you're just playing the teams as they are? Jim?
Well, first of all, I definitely feel that coaching is a major part because the decisions that are made, in planning for the game, but it's not just the head coach. It's the offensive coordinator. For example, the Jets, I feel, have one of the worst offensive coordinators in the business. That I don't really pick on the Jets, but that's just an example.
Right.
I mean, last year in the Super Bowl, one of the reasons I picked Kansas City to win the game was Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator. Yes, Andy Reid's a great head coach, but so is Kyle Shanahan. But the defensive coordinator, I felt, gave Kansas City the edge in the game, which I thought would be close, but it would come down to coaching decisions and the scheming and of what he does on a daily basis.
Jim, you mentioned two of the things I consider important factors and some of the coaching weaknesses. Paulie, we see it every week. Coaching is making poor decisions and not using the clock properly. What do you think is the biggest weaknesses among the coaches? Is it preparation? Is it time management? Is it play calling during the game? What do you think's happening there?
I think some of them try to wear too many hats. You know, if you're not strong in a certain area, you have to learn to delegate. You hit the nail on the head because clock management is a huge problem. I mean, some of these decisions that these coaches make relevant to bleeding time off the clock or protecting time, it just makes no sense. Do I look at coaches when I handicap? Of course. I bet horses too, and I look at the jockey, but ultimately it comes down to the team, and sometimes the coaches do make a difference, but more often than not, I'm focusing in on the matchup as opposed to the coaching. But that's not to say it doesn't have an effect on the game. Right. It does, but it's less of an emphasis for me.
Don't you think the weakness of any of these coaches already incorporated into the line before we start, so they know how we're thinking already previous to the game kicking off?
Is that for me or for Paul?
Either of you guys.
You can take it, Jim.
Well, okay.
I don't.
I think that if you want, I think that the public doesn't look enough at it. Of course, the public is not, they're square bettors. So I think pro bettors look at it. Paul's a pro bettor. You're a pro bettor. I think you definitely, even though the fact that you're bringing up and talking about it, that's Johnny Q on the street. They're not going to think too much about that. They look at the quarterbacks. They look at how many points they're scoring, things like that. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I want Rodgers over Bo Nix. Yeah, how'd that work out for you? And so, that kind of thing. You get down to the coaching. I think coaching makes a big difference, especially the offensive coordinators calling the plays, because they're calling plays that unbelievably ridiculous.
Right. All right, thank you guys. Now, before we get to the games, remember to give us a like and subscribe. This way you'll be able to get our games as soon as we post them on the internet. So right here, podcasting from gamblersworld.net. Let me start with you, Paulie. You got a game of interest, I know, from New York, and they're traveling all the way out to Seattle. The Giants have been kind of disappointing, even though they covered the spread against Dallas last time out. They've had games where they actually could have won the games and had a much better record straight up than they do. How do you see the one between Seattle and the Giants this weekend?
Yeah, that Giant game was certainly a field goal fest for New York, and they had many, many chances. But here's a situation where they're a rested team, and they're taking on a Seattle team. I don't think they're that good. Now, we watched on Monday night, Jared Goff, 18 of 18 for 292 yards. What a performance. They were actually carved up by this Lions offense. Now, in the first 3 games, let's look at who Seattle took on. They got Bo Nix in his first NFL start. Then they get Jacoby Brissett, a game that they almost lost to the Patriots. Took them to overtime and managed to win the game. Patriots had a 3-point lead with 30 seconds to go. I lost the survivor pick on that. I tried to sneak the Patriots in. I'm still smarting from that. And then they take on the Miami Dolphins with Skylar Thompson. Okay, so those 3 quarterbacks, not much. And then they take on a real quarterback in Goff. And as I mentioned, 18 of 18. So now the Giants are rested. Seattle's 3-1. They could certainly afford a loss. And I just think that defensively, they can be had. New England ran for 180 yards against them. Bo Nix, first game. Okay. Skylar Thompson, not much there. And then Detroit, and the floodgates open. So I'm going to look for the Giants to actually come into Seattle, play competitively. Daniel Jones has gotten better. My concern is Neighbors. He's questionable right now, and I would probably back off the game if he's out. But if he's in, if he's a go, I think the Giants win this football game.
You know, Paulie, I think Neighbors is a big factor. They've gone to him offensively now, and all of a sudden you can see some spark. But you mentioned Goff going perfect against Seattle. We're not expecting that out of Jones, are you?
I'm expecting somewhere between Bo Nix in his first game and Goff 18 of 18. That's quite a variance.
Yeah, I'm going to say you're not giving us much room, are you? Jimmy, how do you see this one?
Well, I totally agree. I look at what Seattle did the other night against Detroit. I mean, they couldn't stop the run for sure, and that helped with Goff with his 18 for 18, because when you can't stop the run, you're getting a lot more time in the pocket. So a lot less pressure, let's say. So that was, that was a big game. It was a tough game. They fought tooth and nail to the end, took a lot out of them. They had to travel to Detroit. Now they travel back home. I'm not a big fan of the Giants. I don't think they're very deep and very talented top to bottom. But taking that kind of number, if you can get a touchdown, I don't think that's a bad play.
Okay. Usually when I see 3 guys on the same side, I look to go the opposite way. But even though I won't be using the Giants as a play, I have to support both of your guys where you're coming from. It's a long trip going out west. But, Paulie and Jim, you made factors that the Giants have had that extra rest, and Seattle's coming off that tough game they played. So
one more point, though.
Go ahead, Jim.
Point. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have my records in front of me, I think Seattle has San Francisco next week.
Well, we'll find out by game time, or by the end of the game anyway. Now, let me stay with you, Jim, right now, because the Sunday night game, Pittsburgh, who's got off to a great start, ended up being on the wrong side of my Megabuck winner last week. They're going to be hosting Dallas. Now, do you think Dallas has come back with that win over the Giants, or is that just a facade right now?
Dallas is not a well-coached team. They've got defensive issues. Matter of fact, they got a lot of defensive issues. Dak Prescott is an overpaid quarterback. I think he's a very good quarterback, but he's not a $60 million a man. And Jerry Jones has mismanaged his team for 27 years, which is why they really haven't done as much in the postseason as they do in the regular season. Pittsburgh's better. They're better coached. They don't have all the talent that you might want on their team, but they're well coached. Last week they made some big mistakes, and they set themselves up for defeat, and they ended up getting defeated. But they're going to bounce back with a big home game. This is the type of game, though, when you look at this point spread, this is not the kind of game that I would lay the points. I would take a money line bet on anything under 3. I won't lay 2.5. I'm not going to lay 3. I'm going to bet the money line on a game like that.
All right, thank you, Jim. It makes more sense. And by the way, you can still give us a like at any time during the show. Subscribe. This way you'll be notified when we're coming up with our free selections and analysis. Now to Paul Bovi. Paul, are you going to Pittsburgh with the Steelers, or you think the Cowboys are rising to the occasion?
I'm going to be off this game, and I'll tell you why. I don't like the Cowboys. I've been critical of them since the beginning. They opened the season against the Browns. They get a win. And that was largely because of the Browns' offensive line problems. But they've been exposed since. And even the Giants were able to move the ball. Yeah. On the other side, Pittsburgh didn't look particularly good against Indianapolis. Fields had a decent game. I think he was 22 of 34 for 300 and change. Najee Harris couldn't run the ball 15 times for 19 yards. Patterson actually had some success running the ball. The defense at times was exposed. The defense at times was exposed against the Chargers until the Chargers were beset with injuries to the offensive line, which caused, just a mad rush on Justin Herbert, who ultimately went out of the game. So I'm not impressed with either team. The number is tight. I think it's where it should be. It's a coin flip. And I lay off the coin flips. I look for other opportunities.
All right, I'm looking at the stats of this matchup with the Cowboys and the Steelers, and the Cowboys just don't generate that much offense, and neither does Pittsburgh passing the ball, and they're 21st in rushing. Only 3 of the last 10 meetings have gone over the total. I'm going to play this one under Pittsburgh and Dallas Sunday night, and the Steelers D is going to have to come to play because boy, they have trouble putting up points, that's for sure. The final game of the day that we're going to discuss, we'll stay right here in Las Vegas, although the Raiders are going to Denver to play. And, all the stats and the trends in this game I'm looking to throw out. And the reason is how we discussed at the top of the show, the coaching difference. And here we have Sean Payton going into New York with this Denver squad and beating the Jets because of the coaching advantage he had there, and he displayed it the entire game over Solar. And now Antonio Pierce, who has a little trouble, I'd say, during game management decisions, to go for it, to punt, to whatever it is during the game. It seems like he's always on the wrong side of the decision. And I think with Denver's defense and the kind of turmoil that the Raiders are in right now, possibly to get rid of Adams, and he's not going to be playing Sunday anyway. And once again, I'm going to go to the total. I think this game is destined to stay under. And Paulie, how do you see this game being played in Denver with Bo Nix at quarterback for the Broncos?
I like the Raiders here. I really like what the Raiders did on Sunday. And I actually had the Browns, so they jumped out to a 10-0 lead. I had them in a contest play. But I could see what was unfolding, and I started taking the Raiders live. But you would figure the Raiders were going to lay down. They didn't have their best defensive player in Crosby. They were without Adams. But these other guys really stepped up. Tucker stepped up. Bowers dropped the pass early and then came on. He really stepped up. They got a lot of productivity out of the running game with Madison. And I just like what the Raiders are doing. And I give the Broncos a lot of credit because they're off 2 straight upset wins over Tampa Bay and New York. But I think at home, they're ready for a fall here. I actually like the Raiders. And if I could get to 3, I would jump all over it because it's going to be a close game. The total tells you that. And that 3-point number could come into play here. I like the Raiders plus the points.
All right, there it is from Paul Bovi on the Raiders and Broncos. He's going to be playing the Raiders without a doubt. And Jim, do you think the fact that Myers, the tight end for the Raiders, who's out because of personal issues, will have any effect on their approach to the game?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, I think, Chip, with your pick. I like the under. I think this is going to be a defensive match. I mean, Denver has a legitimate defense. And I don't see the Raiders as being the type of team that's going to really break that defense down. Paul may be right with the winner, but I think this is really an underplay. And if I like the Raiders, it would probably be in a teaser, because I think when you get a low total and you think it's going to be an under, those extra points that you add on would make a big difference, especially if you take it from 3 up to 9. That might be.
I like that.
All right, Jim. Let's stay right here with the wrap up. We got analysis from Jim Feist and Paul Bovi. Now let's find out what they're offering us for the weekend. I know we have a special deal on the site, and you can follow the buy links. Jim, do you have any specifics about what you can offer?
Well, I got some plays. I'm not sure they're all posted yet, but I think I have 5 plays up on sides and 2 or 3 totals. And like I said, I had a good week last week. I was 9-3 until I lost last night with the Mets. So that was a different sport, of course. But I'm really excited about this week. I'm really going to have I feel like this is going to be a great week, because we've gone through the 4 weeks, which is really like the preseason now. And now these teams are starting to know what they really are and what they're about. So I'm really very excited about it.
I agree, Jim. We should be hitting our stride about now. We've got a sample size that we can judge. Paulie, anything special you got going this weekend?
Chip, it's all special. Every week is special. Okay. I don't know how many games I'm going to have up ultimately. Okay. I've got a couple games up there now. I don't know how many I'm going to have up. I never know how many I'm going to have up. There are a lot of factors play into it. Injuries are a huge factor. Right. So those start to clarify themselves around about Friday. You generally get a sense of who's going to play, who's not going to play. And there are situations where injuries really count. Like I said, Giant game, neighbors. So I'm going to wait and see. Last week I had 5 NFL games up, 4 college. This week I might have 3, I might have 6.
Right.
So we'll see how where the chips land and go from there.
100%.
I think it's going to work out well for you. What's that, Jim?
100%, Paul. When you look at the offensive line for Cleveland, just an example for what Paul just said about injuries. I mean, this team, they might call you and I up to play on the offensive line. I mean, that would be ugly.
They're rather work out a contract on a retirement.
You know what? I'm going to make a point about that. By the time the 4th quarter rolled around, the Browns had 4 new players on their offensive line because other players went out with injuries. They had 4 new players on the offensive line. So you can't win like that. You can't win. You can't win like that. And you know what? They're pinning this all on Watson. It's not all Watson. Their offense actually looked respectable in the first quarter. And then, you know what happens? The wheels fall off.
Right.
I agree. Watson didn't play all that terribly, but he had never. I'm not a big fan of his. Okay, but he really did play hard, and he had no time to set up and play at all.
No, he doesn't at all. And thank you, Paul and Jim. And I'm Chip Chirimbes, of course, creator of the A Play, the single strongest play on the board each and every day, and currently is working out in the NFL. Indianapolis, our big winner last Sunday, makes us 4-0 with Megabuck A Play releases since the regular season and 8-1 in the NFL for the entire season. So for all of us, log on, follow the buy links. We got a big game winner this weekend. As a matter of fact, I have my single strongest play of the year in the early game on Sunday, so don't miss it. Again, for Paul Bovi and Jim Feist, this is Chip Chirimbes saying we'll be back again next week with the NFL preview from gamblersworld.net, and good luck.